The album was largely recorded in a studio in Brighton. There are parts of it recorded on my houseboat Astoria as well. And we've recorded at Air Studios an orchestra, and we recorded a choir singing in a church in South London. The Liberty Choir are a choir run by a woman called MJ Paranzino, who runs choir classes in prisons. The choir is made up of local people, along with a few ex-prisoners from her program inside the prisons.
Rattle, rattle, look, lose those chains. Rattle, rattle, look, lose those chains. Ready for the lines this time. Rattle, rattle, look, lose those chains.
Rattle That Lock was inspired musically by the sound that's played on French railway stations before they make an announcement. It's a jingle. Four-note jingle that's played, that every time I heard it, it would make me want to start dancing. I was in Aix-en-Provence station visiting friends. I heard it, as you often do, so I then turned my iPhone on, held my iPhone up nearer the speaker and waited for the next announcement. Took that sample from that, and that's what I've used. And Polly has written lyrics, and her lyrics are inspired by Book 2 of Paradise Lost by John Milton.
It's about a journey, but it's also about the journey of not accepting the status quo. It's based on two journeys, both inspired by Paradise Lost. In Book 2, Satan takes this incredibly heroic flight to go and sort out, it's God who's imposed the idea that there is no free will on him. And in Book 10, it's the moment when Adam and Eve are expelled from Eden and told there are other versions of happiness.
Whatever it takes to break, gotta do it. From the burning lake or the eastern gate, you'll get through it.
More recently, we've brought other people in. I had Stevie Stanislaw, the drummer from my last tour, in playing on several other tracks, and Andy Newmark's played some as well, and Guy has played some bass on a couple of tracks. I think John's played electric piano on a track, and we've had Misha Paris and Louise Marshall singing on a couple of tracks. Today was one of the ones that Phil put together from 2 or 3 pieces of music of mine that I had sort of ignored. But he's very good at finding them and saying, that's great, you should use it. And how about using it with that piece and that piece? And so he mocked that one up. It's a gift. Making an album is a lot of work, and sometimes the burden of that mountain in front of you, it gets to be too much. And Phil is fantastically helpful at carrying that burden. He's like a mirror, I bounce stuff back off him all the time, and he's full of enthusiasm and help.
Great, okay, that's fine. Yeah.
A Boat Lies Waiting. It's a piece of piano music that I wrote years and years ago, in fact. I recorded it on a little mini disc player, horrible sounding mini disc player, when Gabriel, who is playing on Any Tongue, who's now 18, when he was a few months old, because you can hear him squawking as a baby on it. In the process of recording, you want to make something that is of high quality, but you shouldn't be too scared of putting one or two elements in it that aren't of high quality, because their quality can be lifted. And it's a mistake to lose that spontaneous moment. Polly wrote wonderful words that are sort of dedicated to Rick, really, to Rick Wright. They bring him to mind. Sometimes a song's moment doesn't arrive, and you have other ones that just at that moment have more completeness to them and have more meaning for the flow of what you think you are trying to create.
It's like going into the sea. There's nothing.
Something I never knew. In silence I'd hear you, and the boat lies waiting. Still your clouds are flaming. That old-time easy feeling. She mesmerizes with a smile, dark eyes as compelling as the bourbon. The girl in the canary yellow dress says yes.
The Girl in the Yellow Dress is a jazz track which has been sort of trying to make its way to the top of the pile to be presented. Sometimes you write things and you can't quite find the way to finish them off and make them have the perfect fit for what you're doing. And this is a slightly unusual jazz track. I recorded it originally with a jazz trio here on this boat, but quite a number of years ago. And I recorded it again at Abbey Road with a different bunch of people. And Jules was one of the people who played it at Abbey Road. And Jules has come back and worked on it again for me more recently. He just, it's perfect for his style of playing.
It's,
Oh yes, I know.
but it sounds. I just really like the sound of it.
You can imagine, you can see all the people playing it in the track. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Who's that playing now?
It's Chris Lawrence playing bass,
Yeah.
but it's got
Okay.
my old friend Rado Closer from Cambridge, who was in the very early version of Pink Floyd, on it on guitar as well.
She dances like a flame.
Then the other one goes down, yes, in second.
These things aren't planned in any way. They just present themselves, in this way that it feels pretentious to talk about, that tracks, bits of music just present themselves to you, or you feel like you've channeled them. But sometimes things just arrive and you don't know where or how they've come to you. And the way to go forward with this one was completely obvious. It was a jazz sort of track. Got brilliant words by Polly, who's managed in her usual way to hear in the music exactly what is being suggested and being able to verbalize it and then lyricize it. Rob Wyatt has played the cornet on The Girl in the Yellow Dress, and an American sax player called Colin Stetson has played beautiful saxophone on that. You just take the easiest path forward with the best people who you know and you feel comfortable with, and that you think will understand the quickest what you're trying to get at. It's completely different to anything on this album and anything I've ever done before, I guess. But it's one of the best tracks on the album. I've written 2 lyrics on this. Polly has written 5. I don't find it easy writing the lyrics. The 2 lyrics on this one that I have written, the basic ideas for those lyrics presented themselves to me fairly easily. I knew, again, they kind of suggested themselves, but the gaps between albums would stretch on for even more than 10 years if I had to do them all myself. Luckily, I live with and I'm married to a very good lyricist.
David gives me the tracks, and I walk in Brighton for miles and miles and miles with them in the headphones, and start off by he'll scatter melody, and often in this, it's quite interesting when you listen to the original scats. It's like the words are just trying to break through quite often, and it'll always start with a line. So in any tongue, he almost sings, "Come in, I'll stay up." It's sort of and it's sort of there, and so that was the first line that got written, and then I'm sort of walking with it and thinking, well, who's saying to who?
Home and done, it's just begun. His heart weighs more than it ever did before.
Because I'm writing for David, it is an act of empathy a lot of the time. You know, I'm particularly before this album, before I'd cottoned on to the idea that I could write about people who were third parties, which was a fantastic revelation. It was when I wrote Girl in the Yellow Dress. I actually don't have to write what's inside David. I could just write what David might be observing. Previously, in the same way that I take a character on in a novel, it was like taking David on as a character and trying to kind of imagine what it is he might be trying to say or what it is he wants to sing about.
My son Gabriel, who's just about 18, is playing piano on one song called In Any Tongue. And his playing is absolutely beautiful and sensitive, and I thought that he would do a good job for me on this track. My old black Stratocaster, that's the one I probably use the most. I had a great time working with Zbigniew last time on an island, so I thought I'd ask him again. His sensitivity to my music, I think, is very, very strong, and he understands what I'm trying to do. And he wrote some beautiful pieces of orchestral music, which we recorded a few weeks ago at Air Studios. It was a wonderful day. God, it's really exhilarating to sit in a big room with a 30-piece orchestra and record bits of music that you've written. Faces of Stone is really about my mother's declining years. She had a sort of dementia, and there was a particular moment, a particular day, when we were walking together in a park, and the opening line of the song comes directly out of that. As she was declining, and she died less than a year, 9 months, I think, after our youngest daughter, Romany, was born. So there's that thing of one life finishing and another one starting.
Faces of stone.
I've always been very keen on 3/4 time and waltzes. In fact, On an Island was covered in waltzes. And they're rarer on this album. I sometimes think, should there be a more consistent flavour of music throughout an album, or is it okay to just take things that are sort of radically different to other things that they sit right next to? I figure that my voice and my guitar playing style creates the cohesion for an album, and I don't need to worry about that sort of thing at all.